All right, we are back for another episode of Tough Men of Faith. Nick, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. You over there dying laughing?
It's like every episode that we start out, we just sit here and we just laugh the whole time. And I think honestly, Blake almost just starts recording us sometimes.
Does he?
Yeah.
That'd be dangerous.
Yeah. It's just to make sure that I can never be president of the United States. He's got all this dirt on me recorded, so
That is true.
that's probably the one thing that's going to hold me back.
That's it.
Yep.
Remember we had Matt Barnes in here for an interview?
Yeah.
And he mentioned that there's never been a bald president.
Well, there has been, not in like a long time.
Since TV or something,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But there also hasn't been a bearded president in a long time.
Really?
I mean, can you think of the last one?
Who's the last one?
You got Clinton, Bush, Obama,
Trump.
Biden, Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking the last at least 30-ish years,
Yeah.
no bearded president.
That's true.
It might
Yeah.
be time for one.
I'd vote for Robertson for president.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, we have Tom Qualls here. So Robertson
Right.
Qualls, I could be some
Ooh.
ticket.
Oh, there you go.
Both of you are bald-headed and bearded.
Yeah, there you go.
You think, though, Tom would let me do Robertson Qualls? Maybe be Qualls Robertson.
Whichever way.
I don't know.
I'm good either way.
Listen, we just need some change in this country. All right, that's.
Hope and change. I think somebody's already ran that platform.
Yeah, you got to get a
Really?
new
So,
platform.
yeah, we got to get a new platform.
I have a feeling it's kind of tale as old as time on that.
I've got
that
it.
point.
No, listen, guys, I've got it. Your guys' campaign
Go
slogan:
for it.
What do you got?
adapt and overcome.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That's what our country needs.
yeah. I see what you're doing.
See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you guys on target right now. Last week we talked about adapting and overcoming, and
Yeah.
really just kind of introed. I really you said something about a compass last week that was really good.
You like that?
I did. What was that?
No,
I asked the guy if he was a sailor, and he said no, he has a paddle boat.
Oh, okay.
Oh gosh.
No, he said compass has 360 degrees. 180 of them moving forward, 180 degrees moving backwards.
Yeah.
And he said, the best well-laid plans always going to have to adapt and shift and pivot is the word he used. I really like the word pivot.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you might just have to move a couple of degrees, but you're still kind of going in the same general direction.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
yeah,
So-
really liked it.
It's Nick and I always talking in here.
Yeah.
Today, Tom, we want to hear from you.
Oh boy.
So
you're in for a treat.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks. I know. I hope they're not sick of me yet.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week that one of the reasons we gave you a list of topics and you picked this topic, which I was
Yeah.
excited that you picked because you're someone who has lived this out. You've
Yeah.
adapted and you've overcome a lot. So
Yeah.
why don't you
Been a
just
wild
kind of tell
ride.
us your story, and we didn't really get into it last
Yeah.
week, and how that's looked like for you. And Nick and I may join in and
Sure.
ask
Yeah,
some questions along the way. We
Yeah.
may laugh at you
Yeah, I'll
occasionally.
try to poke fun at you a
Which
couple
is
times.
fine. It happens.
But we also know in seriousness, like you've went through a lot and you've come on the
Yeah.
other side. So yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I said, it has been a wild ride, and I'm not gonna go. Well, back in 1985, I was born.
Born.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go that far back. But growing up has its own set of changes, like we all have. Especially when you start graduating, going to college. That's a big culture shock for me because I went away for college. Actually, roommates with producer Blake. Forgot to mention
Really?
that last week. Yeah, me and producer Blake, we're like best
Nice.
bros. Yeah, we bonded over a game of croquet at my 13th birthday party. It's a game of kings. All right, so but anyway,
I
times
thought
change.
I thought Kings had raptors.
No, well, they and croquet.
Okay,
Both.
got you.
It's a whole package deal with
Okay.
when you're the king. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, but anyway, you have those life changes, obviously, and those are things we all kind of learn. That's like a rite of passage. We all have to learn how to adapt through that. But in my adulthood, we talked about a little bit job loss and things and job changing, and I felt called to the ministry when I was 18 years old. So I started going to school for that. Yeah. And I feel like ever since then, it's just been a successive amount of changing. Like there's one change after another. Every time I think this is what I'm going to do, something else comes up. So like I didn't finish school right out.
Maybe it was your plan, but maybe it wasn't God's plan.
Right, or vice versa, because
Yeah.
I felt very strongly that like the Lord really wants me, like He wants me to preach. I was really burdened by my coworkers who just had no hope, and I really felt like the Lord was telling me like, how can you, who has so much hope, keep it from other people? And I was like, you're right, I should really do something with that.
Back to hope and change.
Yeah, hope and change. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're back to our running slogan. Yeah. So but with that, came a lot of different challenges and things. So some of it my fault. Sometimes the things we have to change, the problems that pop up, they're our fault.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and sometimes They're not our fault. I stopped going to school and got married and put that on hold for a while. And it's like, well, maybe the Lord doesn't want me to go into ministry just yet. So I worked in a warehouse for a very long time. And then I worked this job because that changed. And this happened, you know. And it's always those type of things. But a big one that's happened recently, we mentioned last week that if you didn't change during COVID, like, I don't know if you're changing, you know. But for me, it's always been those things of changing in the relationship, changing in occupation, changing in church, you know, all these different things. Because that's even, because I was at the church, you know, RT's at, before RT was there. In fact, I was on the pulpit committee to find a new pastor, and we found RT. Yeah.
That's what you landed on?
So that's what we landed on. Listen,
And they had other options.
it was slim pickings, let me tell you. So we did have some other options, but RT was the best. So we brought him in, and that was a big change. You know, when you get these big changes in leadership at church.
Tell evangelists, bring those guys on board, and changes
Mm-hmm.
your whole world.
Yep.
Well, we started meeting for lunch shortly after I started working at Villa, and I remember early on telling he's like, "Hey Tom, we didn't have any money at the church to hire anyone, but I was like, Tom, we'd really like to hire you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? What do you think?" And we got China buffet. It was a China buffet.
Yeah,
we did that almost
downtown.
every week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And every week, just encourage him. He had a good job, but just
Yeah.
asking him, "Hey, would you pray about this?"
Yeah.
And you stepped out on faith because
I did.
I mean, I remember telling you, like, "Hey, I don't know, man, if we have the money to pay you." We
I
do
didn't
for
know
a few
either.
months, but what do you think about quitting your job and coming here? So
And again, that was another time where I just felt like the Lord was like, "All right, let's go. Like, this time for change. You know, it's time to change that." And yeah, that was a big change.
you did.
About 6 years ago, right? Thereabouts.
Right.
Because oh man, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, there was that. Going through that and learning how to do things. Of course, you have so much church experience, and I didn't really have many as far as church leadership. So he's like, "Hey, why don't you just work on this kids ministry?" Or, "Hey, why don't you just start live worship for us?" Like, okay, like that's just what I do. You know, okay, I'll try it. But then, you know, personally, 2020, the year we'll never forget, right?
Never forget it, right?
Never forget
That-
2020,
just,
man.
Like you say that, right? 2020,
Yep.
instantly, like there's something in my gut that's like
Yep.
hurting.
You do. You get mad a little bit. At least I do. I'm like, oh, man, my goodness. Anyway, but yeah, 2020, March, right? And if you're keeping track of your
That's when it all
calendars at
hit.
home, yeah, that's when it was happening. It was actually the week that they decided to lock down, flatten the curve, right? That's the whole thing that happened.
Was it 2 weeks?
Right? Whatever it
2
was.
weeks to flatten the curve.
Right. So I got COVID, like, before it was cool. Like, I was like,
In the 2 weeks?
yeah, like before. Like, I had it like going into the lockdown. Like, at least I thought I had it, and I was like, I went to the doctor. Everybody was really freaked out about it, obviously. And then got a call from my doctor. Get a call from my doctor, said, "Hey, you know, pretty sure you got the COVID." I said, "Okay." I was all right. Well, that's a thing, so I got to
What
watch
do I
that.
do now?
Yeah. Okay. What do you do? And he's like, "Just stay in the house, man. Like, just stay in the house." I was like, "Okay." You know, he gave me all the rules for that, how to treat it, blah blah. So I come downstairs. I'm like, well, you know, because we really didn't know a lot.
It was
back
scary
then.
back.
Yeah.
Right, but then that was the weekend that churches shut down, that we locked everything down.
Yep.
Because you didn't come to church that day before, which was probably a good thing.
Yeah, because I was sick.
Because you were sick, but didn't even know it really. But we shut our church down that Sunday. Mm-hmm. And,
It was wild.
Monday, you came down with it. Yeah.
Sure enough, yeah, it was like that Monday, right when it was like, well, we're here now.
Yeah.
I get there and I come downstairs to let my wife know, wife of 12 years, and I said, "Hey, yeah," he says, "I got COVID," and she goes, "Oh, well, I've actually been with another man, and I'm leaving."
Oh.
Is how she decided to drop that on me. So like, oh, okay. Of course, that's my reaction now.
I hope you just went over and sneezed on her.
That was no. That was not my reaction then. So obviously that was earth shattering, right?
Yeah.
Married for 12 years, you know, not how I thought life was going to go, not how I thought how this was going to go, and then to have this, you know, well, infidelity, you know, and all this happen, and she doesn't want any kind of reconciliation. She didn't want any of those things, and it was hard.
Yeah.
Because then I'm locked down in my shell of a house. Because eventually she comes and takes all of her stuff and some other stuff that may not have whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that she wanted. That's fine. I didn't care. It was like, sure,
Right.
that's fine. But learning to deal with that, and I'm just left alone in my house with my dog. I did. I told her there's two things. I was like, don't take my TV. Don't take my dog. Like, that's all I said. Just leave my dog and my TV, and I think I'll be okay. But that was a dark time. Like, that was super dark because
That sounds like a dark time.
we talk about bad things that happen, right? Having to adapt with a job change. Like, hey, listen, yeah, you might lose your job. There's other jobs out there, man. Like, it'll happen. Or you might even be dealing with death. Like death sometimes is a little easier to deal with because it is what it is, right? And you have that ripped away, but then
it's very final.
Yeah, it's very final, right? But to be ripped every day alone, back and forth between what did I do wrong and what do I do now and
how do I way to fix it?
How do I fix this? Yeah, how do I fix this? Like, because you think you can, like, I can fix this, I can fix this. All this stuff is happening
because we're guys and we're
exactly.
fixers.
Yeah, we just think we got it.
Yeah, and you're alone, right? So
completely. Yeah,
you're an extreme extrovert, anyways.
Yes,
right. I love being around people, and we always talk about in this podcast that you need guys around you, like physically present around you.
You do.
Yep.
And you're stuck home for 14 days in your house with your dog.
Yep. And going through a divorce.
Yeah.
Is what it ended up being for in those 2 weeks. Yeah, that's where we were locked down. Yeah. But we didn't go back because I was also, working here and at the school and things. And, decided to step away from church, take care of family and take care of all this stuff. And then I didn't go back. I was locked down not for two weeks, but for 4 months. Right. I was just alone and haunted and all these things. It was tough. Like, it was really tough. And you're faced with what do I do? How do I literally for me it's different than all these other things because your entire world is just ripped out. Yeah. It's just gone. So it's almost worse, I feel like, maybe personal experience. It's almost worse because it's not like that didn't go the way I thought. It's not so easy like that. It's not like our last episode. It's not like, Toucan Sam isn't as popular anymore. Like, who cares? When you're looking at my entire world, I thought I was going to be married, have kids, have grandkids. We're going to grow old together, all these things. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked about before. This is someone that you were leaning on. This is someone, great, now I've got this COVID, this new thing that nobody knows what it is, and I need somebody to lean on because now I'm stuck at home for the next 2 weeks. Yep. And that's some blindsiding news.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's just a blindside.
It is.
Okay, that's out of left field.
Yep. And it levels you.
Yeah.
And literally, like there was times I was just on the ground, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not crying yet, so we're good. No one won the bet last week, so but we're doing good. But my dog was there for me. I know that's the weirdest thing that Lord provides in mysterious ways.
He does. Yeah.
My dog picked me up off the ground a couple times. It was intense.
It's a strong dog.
Yeah, good. Well, not like pick me up, but
gotcha.
I'd be pretty miserable on the floor, and he would get his little nose under my chin. And
he grabbed your diaper like Blue from Jungle Book.
Yes, and just take the nape of my neck and lead me. No. But he'd pick my chin up, stuff like that. And and that stuff was hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I really didn't. RT knows because I was in contact with him a lot.
For sure.
During the as it was all going down, but. It just really impressed me early on that I needed to do this right. Like, I needed to make sure that we, adapt properly, that I overcome this properly, Because we've all known somebody who's gone through a pretty nasty divorce, and, they're just not the same.
Yep.
Like,
things change.
Things change. They're broken people after that. They become angry people. They become distrusting and all these things.
I have a friend currently going through the exact same thing right now.
Yeah, and it's hard.
It's terrible to watch.
Yeah. It's like watching someone deteriorate. You know what I'm saying? Exactly they're just crumbling.
Yep.
And I just didn't want that, not just for my own betterment, like we talked about last week, just not just to make my life better, but because I was just really impressed by the Lord to lack of a better term, stand up.
Yeah.
Get up, get it together. That's hard when you have no idea how to do that. No idea. Because I remember, and I'm going back now, you guys give me the PTSD, I'm going back and remember and feeling it. But, I remember, I had no idea what to do.
Right.
My entire life, I feel like I had this vision of this is what I'm going to do, and this is how it's going to go, and that's how it's going to be. And then it's gone, and you feel blind. You just feel completely blind. But there was just a time where I just completely gave up in the right way. And I think that's an important thing. If you're out there struggling with whatever it is you got to adapt and overcome, you got to give up in the right way.
Yep.
Because a lot of times, we don't want to give up. You don't quit. You don't,
right.
We
want to pivot.
Don't roll over and die. Don't curse God and die,
Yep.
Job's friends say. You don't do that. No, but you got to pivot. Yeah, hey, you gotta give up in the right way. Let go of this fantasy at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's not reality anymore. You got to give up.
Yeah, the plan has changed.
The plan has changed. Pivot.
It's kind of something we talked about in previous episodes. Most of them, probably every episode, it gets brought up at least once. But you get people, like-minded people around you. You get you a battle buddy.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure producer Blake or RT stepped up, kind of been your battle buddy, just
they sure
somebody
did.
to lean on and just somebody to talk to. And it's kind of the same thing I've tried to do for a friend of mine. non-Christian guy
Yeah.
going through a divorce, and it's like, you try to be a battle buddy for him and,
Yeah.
offer Christian advice.
Yep.
Just kind of push him in that right direction.
Yeah. Always preach the gospel. Yeah.
Because it seems like a dark place going
yeah.
through that. I mean, it just there's just not much light there.
Nope. There's not. And that's what, so for me, I really feel like if I could share anything, just not out of that, because change continued to happen after that. It wasn't just like, that was a big one. Like that was a big blow, you know, but I had to change the way, because I was teaching out of school, I had to change the way we do school. So that my job changed yet again. I'm teaching English all of a sudden. Yeah. That's right. I went from English to math.
All doing virtual school and
doing online school, which was the worst. Some of you guys your kids are still doing it. It's terrible. Anyway, that's my opinion. Yeah. These views do not reflect those of men of faith. Tough enough, man. All right. So anyway.
No, but you're right. I got a friend of mine that does a lot of stuff with like high school band.
Yeah.
And he said, these kids are not in school. Yeah. And he said it's just detrimental in that subject. I mean, it's just it's terrible.
Some of those things just don't translate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to change this, and then I had to make the decision eventually too. Like, what do I do? Like when it comes to family, like do I date again? Do I have to go through all that? And I really felt like producer Blake shaking his head. He was there for all of this part.
Oh yeah.
Like that was a fun time. Yeah. As a 35-year-old man getting on a dating app in 2021.
Let me have that phone and shoot that text over for you, buddy.
Man, no, that was at the end of 2020, I think, is when anyway, or 2021 is really when I was. Yeah. But it was goodness. Like again, it's all a blur. But like eventually, the Lord brought me an awesome Christian woman who understands my situation and loves the Lord as much as I do, probably more sometimes. And again, God's restored a marriage in my life. It's not the one I thought it was going to be, but it's definitely He's still working and doing those things and changing there. And then even now, I just as of a few weeks ago, we get the news, like, another big change. I'm having my first kid. So, like, it just keeps on. The hits just keep on coming, like, we're going to keep changing, man. And I just feel like it's been my anthem, to be like, well, if I can give God glory through all of this, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with you. Whatever you've went through, that you've tried to handle it well, or even seeking out wisdom, like, how do I handle this well?
Yeah.
How do I, portray Jesus well during this difficult time?
Yeah.
Where, a lot of guys wouldn't, myself included. But that was your motto from the beginning.
Yeah. And it was tough. That was a choice. You have to make that choice. Throat's dry. I'm not crying, okay? Those of you listening, I'm just clear my throat.
That air is really dry in here.
Yeah. So, but anyway, you have to make that choice to say, I'm going to do what's right. And I'm going to try to bring God glory. Because honestly, what else do you got? And I know that's what's hard too. You talk about your friend's situation, and it's tough for an unbeliever. Maybe you're out there listening to us, trying to find and looking for something here. Like as an unbeliever, none of this makes sense. Like it sounds hard to say this, but I'll say it. But we're tough men around here, right?
Yeah.
But listen, without Christ, there is no hope. Like it's hard to give hope outside of Christ. Like I guess I can say, I don't know, maybe it'll work out. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But with Christ, like, there's always hope. You know what I mean? There's always hope. And that's why I think it's important that you keep preaching the gospel to your friend.
Well, and hope and there's hope in something more than this life. This life might be great, and it's a whole lot of other things and a whole lot of adjectives to explain this life. But there's a bigger hope in something that's a whole lot bigger than this.
Oh, yeah.
And a whole lot better than this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I guess if I could, before we ended up here, I got basically 3 things for you guys and for anybody listening at home. Just things that I've kind of learned, like School of Hard Knocks classic, like what I've learned, like when change comes. And now, like, I don't want to say I'm not going to flinch with change, but like seeing God's faithfulness through everything has really made it easy. Easier. I'm sure there'll be harder things in my life. But it's made it easier to like accept when these big problems happen. Number one is we talked about it last week a little bit, you got to accept the truth. Like it is what it is.
Yep.
I think so often like we get in a situation, we just don't want to believe it. Because of pride, because of fear, or what, but we just resist it and that prevents you, I think, from healing, and I think that prevents you a lot from moving forward because you're lying to yourself.
Yeah,
you're not accepting it is what it is. And so in my situation, like when my wife left and all this stuff, it helped me to heal, to look in the mirror and go, your wife is gone, your marriage is over, period. Like there's no accept it, like it is what it is. Like okay.
Well then, and sometime later, I'm sure too. You start looking at maybe a little bit of self-reflection too.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of things that she said wasn't out of anger. Maybe it was
something else.
Maybe it was legitimate. Maybe
and learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, learning from it.
That's the biggest thing is being able, like you said, to be able to talk about it. Acceptance, but then learning from it too.
Yeah.
That way you can change change, what your future holds too.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Because it makes it better for the future.
Yeah.
And then you got to learn to be humble.
Is this number two?
This is number two.
So accept the truth,
Accept
the reality.
Yeah,
okay. Number two is be humble.
Be humble. Because, and again, a little bit that goes along with the first one. Like I said, you don't want to be so prideful as to think like, well, this couldn't possibly happen to me, and you don't accept the truth. But I think there's a lot of humility that comes in these kind of big changes in our lives where you have to just really submit. And I know that's a word that's tough men of faith. We don't like to use that word. We like to use that word against our wives, right? Like we say submit, no, but we need to submit to God. Like we need to submit to his power, his authority, his sovereignty in these crazy situations. It takes some humility to sit down, shut up, and listen, like to him.
Yeah.
Because there was a period there where like between all my raging and tears and everything else that was happening, all this stuff, like there's a time where I just had to be quiet and just say, what do you want?
Yeah.
Saying like, what do you need? And that you have to put yourself aside to do that. Like you can't stand up and keep raging. Because I know that's easy, I think, for guys. Like for us to just, well, I'll fight it. I'll fight whatever I got to do. Like I lost my job. I'll fight. I'll get it back. Like my kids come out and said they're gay. Well, I'll figure out something. Like all these big changes that can happen to our life. Like maybe you don't need to fight it. Maybe you need to submit to God's word.
Yep.
Submit to where he's leading you. Submit, to good teaching, to your friends. Submit to church leaders. And it's okay. It's okay to look at somebody and say, dude, I have no idea what to do. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Because I do. I think we have this, we feel like as guys, we got to have all the answers.
Yeah, have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the plan. Our plan is perfect. We don't fail. Sorry, dude, you do, right?
Yeah.
You do. Or sometimes it's not your fault. It just wasn't my fault, but here we are.
Yeah.
But you got to be humble.
That's good. Because I think of the guy who, buries his head in the sand, like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Like, no, dude, everything's not good. Right?
It's not.
Things are not good. What's the third one?
And the last one is you got to fully rely on God. Fully. And I stress that word fully. Because, I mentioned it a second ago, you have no hope outside of the hope of the gospel.
Yep.
That my home is not here. My real life isn't here. I know that sounds like some Matrix stuff. But no, my real life isn't here. My life is with him in eternity, right? So relying on him gives you some perspective of your timeline here. Like this stuff, bad stuff that's happened to you. Like, listen, this is a blink. You know what I'm saying? Like this is going to go away.
Yep.
It's going to last for this much. But fully rely on him too, like I said earlier. Rely on his word. What words does he have for you? Yes, Job was a huge inspiration during that time, right? But you go to God's word, submit to it, fully rely on him because he's all you got. He's all you got. You have to just trust him. I think my relationship with Christ grew so much during that time. And it's a weird thing when I look back, it's weird when you say it this way, but understand what I'm saying at home. Don't take this out of context, but I'm almost happy for my divorce because it brought me so much closer to God. It helped me really understand his faithfulness. And that's the big thing I think I come away seeing in this entire thing is like God's faithfulness. And when I go to face something else, he's faithful. Like I know he is.
Yeah, look at what he's brought you to and brought you through.
Yes,
so
100%.
Any problem you come up to in the future, you've been through something big.
Exactly. I remember what God did there.
Exactly.
That's good. I always think of that. You go through a valley and you look back like, I never want to go through that valley again. It was rough, but I'm thankful I went through it.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
I know we're about to wrap this up here, so your advice here, Tom, let me see if I remembered it.
Go for it.
So if I'm wanting to adapt and overcome and rough times hit me, is to accept the truth. Hey, this is the reality I find myself in. To be humble, submit to my friends, to really like, hey, I need some help. Like we don't like asking for help as guys.
For sure.
Yep.
And then the third one is, hey, really, I have no hope outside the gospel, so I got to fully rely on God to bring me through this. So,
Yep.
Man, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, no
we
problem.
we can't get guests to come in very often.
And telling your story,
But yeah.
it takes a lot to
It does.
sit in front of an unknown amount of people and just tell some really personal stuff.
Yeah. Well, and again, for the glory of God, man. He is a savior.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not just of your soul, but even the life you have now. Like he's a rock. You can trust him. He is faithful. He'll never fail. Because even through all this change that we're going to experience in life, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever.
That's a good thing to end it on.
It's beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
perfect.
It's beautiful.
All right, Tom, thanks for coming in. Nick, any last parting words?
No, I don't think so.
Tom said it all?
Yeah, Tom said
That's
it
good.
all.
Oh, okay.
I
All right.
can't wait to have him back.
Yeah, I know it. We're going to have you back. So appreciate you guys joining us this week.
I did see one thing, though.
Oh, boy.
Tom did cry.
Yeah, but okay, so but like I didn't
I get
cry.
it. It was really personal, but I need my $2. You said
man.
he was going to cry in the first
Dang it.
episode.
That's
I said
true.
second episode for sure.
Yeah, I
It's
did
all
lose
right.
a couple bucks on that. All
That's
right.
bad.
We'll see you guys next week.